Well, it's 10 o'clock, and I guess we have to shift our discussion. Just want to start off with our prayer, and then David usually brings a little piece of literature to our attention. So blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. You have sanctified us through your commandments and commanded us to busy ourselves in things of Torah. Amen.
Amen.
And so, David, if you would be kind enough to read your fabulous poem for the week.
Thank you. Thank you. And Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Wendy is just about, thank you. Wendy is just about on. She's just connecting now with her Kindle. Anyway, I have two little quotes today. The first is from Horace. With my head exalted, I shall touch the stars, in the 1st century BCE. And last night I was really looking at Sirius, which is the brightest star in the sky. It's so easy to see high in the south these evenings.
Oh.
It reminds me of John Keats's Bright Star Sonnet, written in 1819. I'm just going to read you the first 3 lines. Bright star, would I were steadfast as thou art, not in lone splendor hung aloft the night and watching with eternal lids apart. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Both very, very interesting. I wonder if Keats was writing about Sirius or Venus.
I think he was writing about Sirius.
Okay.
It's hard to say, except that I know that he was very depressed when he wrote it because he was already starting to get the first signs of the tuberculosis that would kill him a couple of years later.
Okay.
So that's what I suspect that sonnet is from.
Good point. Good point. Well, any other comments before we get started? Okay. Well, we're going to start a discussion about. Excuse me. Did you want to see? No. Okay. We're going to start a discussion about Joseph again. And it's the beginning of the, if you will, the sale of Joseph.
Right.
Okay, so so that is Genesis 37, verse 12.
Well. Mm-hmm.
So if somebody has the passage in front of them. And
I can read it.
Okay, thank you, Ricky.
But I have a little mark of 15, but I'll go back to 12. One time when his brothers had gone to pasture their father's flock at Shechem, Israel said to Joseph, "Your brothers are pasturing at Shechem. Come, I will send you to them." He answered, "I am ready." And he said to him, "Go and see how your brothers are and how the flocks are faring and bring me back word." So he sent him from the valley of Hebron.
Okay. Any discussion? I know we mentioned a little of this last week, but any other comments that somebody would like to make about this portion? Yes, Rabbi.
Well, I apologize for not having been totally with you for the last couple of weeks, but I'm wondering what people think of Jacob's motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is he sending Joseph to spy on the brothers? Is he sending them to ideally make peace with them? How have, given your conversations and discussions over the last week or two,
Mm-hmm.
and how you understand Jacob and Joseph as the favorite, what's the underlying motivation at this point? What's the feeling of the people?
Chris.
Well, I like when I was reading it, what it says to go and look into the welfare of your brothers and the welfare of the sheep or the flock as well. So the word welfare it appears to me like it's a little more concerned. I am preoccupied by how are they doing to me. And what I love about it was that Joseph responded, Hineni, like, whatever you want, Dad, I'm ready to serve, I'm ready to do. So he was also convinced or softened also on the thought that it was a good thing to do, go check on them. But I don't see that spying on this particular thing, Rabbi. That's a good point, though.
Okay, and Pastor Bruce, did you want to add?
I just am double checking the Hebrew. Is shalom not used here? Isn't it used?
Yes.
Yes.
Go
Okay.
check on the shalom of your brothers.
Yeah, that's what I
Right.
was thinking. Okay, thank you. That's all.
But again, that could be interpreted as, see how they're doing.
Right.
It could be interpreted as, okay, maybe I missed. There's a midrash that Jacob says to himself, well, maybe I made a mistake in treating Joseph differently. Let me send him out to the brothers. They can, and maybe they'll welcome him into the shepherding, the union of shepherds, whatever, give him a little bit of training. Or, the thought is maybe he'll go and they'll be able to make peace. They'll be able to make shalom, to play on the words that way. But to the best of our knowledge, if I remember it correctly, Joseph is not aware of how his other brothers had reacted to his dream or the dreams. He knows how Jacob had reacted, but he hadn't heard from the brothers yet. So if he knew that they were upset with him already, would his answer have immediately been Hineni? Oh, sure, I'll go check on him, Dad.
Sure.
Wait a minute, you want to send me to those guys?
Yeah. Oh, that's sure. Gail.
Yeah, Rabbi, I have a question. Can you please go back to, let me see. That would be line, where'd it go? I just had it. Oh, in 10. And he told it to his father and his brothers about the dream. And his father was annoyed at him. What is the Hebrew translation of that?
Let me find it.
Unrated.
What's the verse, Gail? What's the verse? 10.
In verse 10?
Yeah,
At 10.
Doesn't say that.
My translation has berated.
Vayigar. Well, it's an interesting word. It certainly leans towards anger, but it's anger and disappointment kind of wrapped together.
Okay.
That in my translation also, I think, like Ricky said, is berated him. But it's an interesting word.
Definitely a statement.
It's something that Ga'ar is to say, beg on you. That's not very nice. And telling that it's not right. But in my mind, the brothers are standing there. So they might support the attitude of the father that it's not right what he's doing.
well, is he
Right.
asking Joseph to apologize to his brothers?
No.
No.
No, not in that case. No, it's more of a reprimand. It's more of a, do you realize
Reprimand.
how
Reprimand is
troubling
good.
this is?
Not a you.
Okay. But when he sends him off, he's, okay.
Interesting. Anyone else?
Well, my other Bible here uses the word scolded.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right.
Joseph and deriding his dream.
Yeah, scold, reprimand.
That's what mine said.
And Yaakov includes the brothers into why he's saying that. You should not have done that to your mother and your brothers. So they're very aware that it's not a nice behavior.
Correct.
Yeah, well,
All
they're
of the
aware of it.
above.
We don't know how they're responding to it yet.
That's Joanne.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry I
Morning,
haven't been
Joanne.
here.
Good morning.
I have my Catholic Bible and also the Torah words here. And verse 11 answers some of the questions. Both Bibles say, so his brothers were wrought up against him. But the next verse in my Catholic Bible says, but his father pondered the matter. And
Yes.
number 11 and the other one is kept the matter in mind.
Right,
Correct. Correct.
that's right.
You know,
So what do you
so
think? What do you think, Joanne?
I think that I think if my brothers had come to me and said, I had a dream, etc., I would have been pretty frustrated at them for them thinking they were better than me. And I think that 11 brothers were angry at him.
Oh, yes, for
Oh, yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And why do you think the latter half of verse 11 says that Jacob kept the matter in mind? Why is that inserted there?
Okay. Marty,
Well-
Grace had something she wanted to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. I missed that. Yes, Grace.
Thank you. I was reading the commentary and part of it suggests that I lost my train of thought. 1 second.
Okay. While you're thinking, I'm going to let Larry go and then we'll come back to you, Grace.
Thank
This
you.
is From Friedman, that Joseph will be able to interpret other people's dreams, but not his own. And they said no one seems to know that the dreams are prophetic.
Right.
Yes, we had mentioned that last week. Yes. And it is, and so that's interesting. Do you think this is what is going over in Jacob's mind? Remember, he had a dream several months ago. We read about his dream about the angels going up and down this staircase. He's already experienced this. And he was mulling things over also.
We're getting feedback, I think, from Wendy.
There's a lot of feedback. Okay, but he also had the experience with the rape of Dinah. He goes silent. He's mulling things over. You remember we sort of touched on that also. And here is he still trying to say, oh, maybe some of this is here because this is what God intends me to do. What is God sending as a message here? Because at that time, dreams were very important. So think about that. Grace, I'm going to let you go ahead.
Okay, I just put it in the chat, but it suggests that possibly that they're not realizing that only parts of dreams will come true, not the whole necessarily dream. I know that they were in a time and an era when, dreams were considered very true, realism, prophetic, that, but the commentary kind of threw me in a different direction. So, because I know I have dreams and I have these premonitions sometimes, and only pieces of them actually manifest. So I was just kind of reading the commentary for that. That's
Very
all.
good.
Thank you.
Very interesting point. Very interesting point. Yes, Rabbi. Rabbi Norm.
I have to apologize. My friend and professor Norman Cohn, one of my Midrash professors, would be very, very upset with me. So I stand corrected when I said I didn't remember that the text talks about how the brothers reacted. Norman and I actually he helped me write a paper that I just remembered about that verse and all, not really reaching a conclusion, but just raising all kinds of midrashic questions. The Hebrew is kan uvo echav, that, and somebody translated it as that his brothers were angry with him. Okay.
Jealous.
Another translation would be the brothers were jealous
Yeah.
Right.
of him or envious of him. And then, but if they're angry with, who are they angry with? It doesn't say that they were angry with Joseph. Were they angry with Jacob? Were they angry with Joseph? We don't know. That's a possible for interpretation. And then Marty, as you're saying, that Jacob, kept the idea in mind or kept the matter in mind. Which matter? Of what Joseph's whole attitude had been, or what the brothers' attitude,
right?
What their response had been, or what his position had been. What was the lesson that was learned for Jacob to keep it in mind? And what's the impact that phrase then has on the next couple of sentences that we read before?
I was going to, and that's my next question.
Files. I have to go back into my files. It's long before we computerize them. If I can find that paper.
Very good. Very good.
I just had a thought. And actually Rabbi Norman touched on it anyway, but it seems to me when they say Jacob sort of pondered this, I get the feeling that he is reminded of himself and some of his internal struggles. He is a little ambivalent about what is to play out. He's wrestling with conflicting feelings about that. And I think it's perfectly natural for him to wonder, is my son given a gift of prophecy, or is this something I'm wishing that he had because he's my favorite?
Good point. Good point. So, yes, Joanne.
I'm thinking of the word ponder, and there's probably other places in the Bible, but Mary, when things would happen with someplace very early on in anything from Mary, she pondered in her heart. And since my Catholic Bible here says ponder again, that I'm thinking of pondering in your heart. So who pondered? The brothers, Joseph, Jacob, or were they all pondering about this dream? And the brothers may have been a little frightened of this dream.
Sure. Yes, Rabbi Mary.
Well, these are, as I learned, Rabbi Norman, there are three ways to see God. One is Chazah or Chazon that Yechezkel, Ezekiel has, and one is to dream. So it's beyond prophecy. This is a message that comes with what I call the red telephone, direct talk. I don't remember if the same thing is with Moshe, but he is the only one that hears directly. And I don't remember if he says something to do with the eyes or it's just the small. So as all of you said, it is a prophecy, and it's a prophecy because it comes from a good source.
You bring up a very interesting comment about the heart. And I read somewhere, and I apologize, I don't remember who said it, but it's that things that you feel with your heart is God-given as one interpretation of that. separating that from what you mull over in your mind. And so it may be a intentional use of the word heart.
That's so Kabbalistic. That
I understand.
yeah.
Okay, Don. I don't know who had their hand up first, Mike or Don. Let me call on Michael and then Don. That's fine.
You're on
You're
mute,
muted,
Michael.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, I found that highly interested about feeling with the heart. Could you, Marty, give some examples, some clear examples of how you would feel with your heart?
Okay. With the brain, when you think of your mind, it doesn't necessarily have to be a logical sequence. Okay. When we attribute things, but when we talk about our brain or mind, it deals with logic, and there's a basic premise, whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. But whether it's a belief or a scientific process, whatever, it's brain oriented. But sometimes you have a feeling of what is right, what is good for you, what is good for someone else. You don't know where it comes from. And I think that's what they were getting after. Sometimes you're in a room of people and one person stands out in your mind above everyone else. You just feel that that person is in tune, or you're in tune with them. I can't answer why that happens. And I think that's what they're getting after. I don't know if these are good enough examples, but it's sort of personal also. When I first saw Sue, I said, my goodness, this is the person I want to be with the rest of my life. I had only met her for a few moments.
Yes,
I can't explain that. I can't explain that at all. And so I think, and later on, I learned the word beshert.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and maybe there is something to it. I don't know, but I'm just saying that it's worthwhile thinking about. I think it's an important question.
So that it's something like you know something to be true, but you can't prove it.
Correct. That's a good way of explaining it. Very good. Very good. Okay, Don, and then Rabbi.
Did you tell us just when that happened, when you met her?
Well, at that time I was. It was at a party. I was seeing another girl at that time, and there was just something. She just was sitting there in the room, and just was saying a few words, and this came over me. And it put me in a very awkward situation because my brain was saying, "What's going on here?"
Did you have any drinks?
No.
No.
And it was it's just an unusual experience, and I can't explain it, but when you feel it. And I think that's what the ancients were talking about, feeling things with your heart as different than mulling them over. Mm-hmm. That's all I can say. Before, I know Don was trying to say something, and Miri was trying to say, and Larry was. So let me get into this sequence here, and I guess Wendy may be trying to say something. I saw her get up and everything. So
sounds like we're heading towards an open invitation for people to renew their vows.
Excuse me, we have renewed our vows 4 times?
4 times.
4 times.
Oh, how
Mazel tov,
sweet.
mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov.
Thank you. But no, it's just interesting. Let me call
Wait,
on
wait.
people to get what they want to say.
Sue wants to talk.
Yeah, I just was going to say something funny about renewing vows. We went, that we were in Texas and we had a drunk justice of the peace and we brought our kids and he said, "Don't you think you should be married by now?" We said, "We are married," because we had the kids with us and he couldn't process the fact that we were just renewing our vows. So that was kind of funny.
Okay, let me get Don first, then Rabbi Mary, then Larry, then Wendy. Okay, so and remind me, I may forget. Okay, and Ricky too now. Okay, Don.
That's a great story, Marty and Sue. And there's been lots of times in my life which I knew in my heart something was true, and then it turned out to be not to be true. But
that can happen.
But anyway, to the text, I'm looking at the Jewish Orthodox Bible translation, and it uses the word shomer to describe Jacob's reaction to Joseph's dream. And I'm not sure of the actual translation, but in Jacob's instruction for Joseph to go down and check on the flock, I mean, obviously, he didn't need one more brother to check on the flock. So his intentions must have been more complex than that. Maybe not so severe as wondering if he would come back. But it's quite a complex scene. I think.
Yeah.
Can anybody translate shomer in terms of Joseph?
Yeah, to guard or to watch, to watch over. You talk of, like Vishamru v'nei Israel et Shabbat, that children of Israel shall guard and observe and keep the Shabbat.
Okay.
So his reaction was guarded over what he heard from Joseph. Then.
That's one way of putting it. Yeah, or he did, kept the idea in mind, or he maintained it, held on to it.
Thanks.
Okay, Rabbi Mary.
I just want to bring a Torah example about the difference between the heart and whatever. They didn't talk about mind or about brain, but they say when they build the tent of meeting, he said, you have to pay taxes. So all of us have to pay taxes. But give donations, we don't have to. And he said, as your heart feels like, yadvenu libo, give money as much as your heart wants. So in my mind, there is want and there is have to.
Very nice, very good. Okay, in my mind, I lost the sequence. Was it Larry and then who was first? I'll let you.
It wasn't me, but I'm on the list.
Is it okay who I call on? But I know okay, I may get the sequence wrong, but Wendy, you're on.
Wendy. Okay, Wendy's here. And
it's easier, you're in a column, guys, so I can remember the column.
Before I give you to Wendy, I just think that your story was just so beautiful. Thanks for sharing it.
Oh.
By the way, we've done our vows twice since we got married also.
Fantastic.
What I wanted to say about when you were trying to say feeling with your heart, and immediately my heart got that feeling that you were talking about, because I've had it many times with different things. And in today's vernacular, basically what they call it is trusting your gut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels right. You feel it in your heart and you know it's right. And that's the trust your gut theory. So basically that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, Larry and then Ricky.
Okay, this
And Robert.
discussion brought to mind a song, and I have the lyrics. A dream is a wish your heart makes when you're fast asleep. In dreams, you will lose your heartaches. Whatever you wish for, you keep. Have faith in your dreams, and someday your rainbow will come smiling through. No matter how your heart is grieving, if you keep on believing, the dream that you wish will come true.
True.
Yeah, we all grew
That's
up with
true.
that.
That's a good quotation.
From Disney.
That's right. It's all Disney. That's right. Okay, Ricky and then Rabbi Norman.
I'm going to take this slightly different, I guess it's different direction. When I was going through a period of feeling things in my heart that I didn't want to feel, because not all feelings are good feelings.
Right.
And I was talking with somebody, and the person asked me, well, what do you do when you have these feelings? And I said, I think about it. And that was the point I wanted to bring up, is thinking about feelings is contra anything to do with the feeling. Right. And this person said, feel the feeling. And, you know, so to separate the two aspects of it. Thinking about feelings is just going to be a rat trap, you know, a hamster running around a wheel, because the brain, I don't think, can really, or, you know, what we call the brain, the mind, the whatever, the thinking, can't connect with what sometimes I say, you know, we're using the word heart, but sometimes the feeling is in my stomach. So, you know, trust your gut feeling, you know, came out. Sometimes it's in my clenched teeth. The feeling is somewhere in the body that we can't really identify. Hopefully we can recognize, and hopefully we can be with it rather than try to think our way through it or out of it. So to me, feelings, I don't care where in your body you want to locate them. They're not an intellectual, you know, it could be your curled toes. I had a therapist that used to watch my feet because I'm always wearing sandals. And if my toes curled, it was literally something I just didn't want to get into, you know. So I don't know what it is, but the body somehow knows what it is. And, you know, dreams, you know, I love the Jiminy Cricket there, but aren't we supposed to lose our soul at night? And doesn't our soul then cleave to the higher power, to God, to whatever we want to call that other? And
that's the prayer we learned as a child.
Yes. Now I lay me down to sleep.
I learned that as a child, but you know, I really do believe that sometimes my dreams are really telling me something that I shouldn't think about, but that I should feel and be with. And I'm purposely stressing the word be, because we're not human, you know, we're human beings, not human doings, or not human thinkings. We're human beings. And the trick is to stay in that being place, wherever it is in your body.
Okay. Very good. Interesting interpretation. Okay. Rabbi Norman, and then Michael again.
It sounds like some of this discussion, it goes back to like an introduction to religion 101 kind of class on what's the difference between knowing something and believing something. That which comes out of your mind, that's what comes out of your soul or your heart, or however you want to define that. Interesting conversation that we certainly can have within the Jewish context, because there's lots of discussion and arguing among the medieval rabbis about that. I remembered, thanks to Don's question about the verb shomer or shamar, I remembered another facet of that paper I was talking to before, that given the translation of shamar as protecting, okay, that becomes the motivation for Jacob. He realizes that what he sees the other brothers, how they respond to Joseph. So the Aviv Shamar et Hadavar, that Jacob realized he had to step in and protect Joseph under these
At the same time,
circumstances.
yes.
That was another piece of that paper that we wrote. I think Ricky jumped in and said that this sounds like some of it is coming of Kabbalah. A lot of this is also coming out of the Jewish ethical writing of Musar.
Yes.
And some of that, as a matter of fact, some of my ancestors were involved in that back in Hungary and Romania 250 years ago. So some of that reading is very important. They work on the phrase that all of us know of love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, as being the three foci, is that focuses, foci, of how we should love God and how we should love our fellow human beings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Michael, and then Joanne. Michael, you're muted.
There we go. This is, thank you. This is mindful for me of what they say, hurting somebody's feelings. Hurting someone's feelings. And it also reminds me of repeating things over and over again to directing those things to a particular person, whether it be in whatever area you want to talk about. And people don't consider sometimes, or don't care. That's even more important. They don't care if they're hurting someone's feelings by repeating something over and over again and getting into sometimes a nasty dynamics about it.
That can be the downside, yes. Yeah, it's an excellent observation. Yes, Joanne.
On feelings, anytime I've had a priest in parishes wherever I am, or Rabbi Norman, Rabbi Mary, I put them maybe on a little bit higher pedestal. And recently, about 2 years ago, in our Holy Cross Church in Dayton, we had a priest come, and I was kind of like Ricky, my toes, and I actually would sit. So my husband, he walks the aisles when he preaches, and I would actually move, make sure I wasn't in the aisle next to him. It turns out, and this is really recent, that he was a pedophile with some young girls in the Catholic school. And he actually, this is online. And this still blows my mind that you're a pedophile online, and he's now been disbarred from the church and let go. But apparently, maybe the actual principal of the school knew about this in some way, and he committed suicide. So I kind of go back to that feeling of there was absolutely no reason I ought not to like this person and respect him. But my feelings said, my heart said, stay away from him, kind of. So.
Yeah, I don't think we have a good answer. Some of you may remember the movie What the Bleep? And okay, Chris is nodding. Yes, because there's something about this, whether it's biochemical, we don't know. We don't have a good answer for it, but it's something that happens to people. And I just find it interesting. And I think that if we put this entire discussion together, I think we've answered Michael's good question. David, it's Wendy again. I saw her writing, so this is good.
This is also fairly quick. In what Ricky was saying, it's like in the New Age kind of thinking, they call people have auras, different colors, and it means different things. You know, if it's golden, you're great. If it's black, people don't want to be around you, or you could call it positive or negative energy. And what happens is people exude that feeling. And that's why sometimes you walk up and you meet somebody immediately and you feel good about it. And sometimes your toes curl because they really are bad people. We just don't see the aura, but we feel the energy. And that's basically my take.
You touched on something that the movie did not touch on, and that is the possibility that we are like antennas, that there is a wavelength, if you will, that our antennas can tune into a particular frequency, a frequency that coincides with our own. And maybe that has something to do with the aura or other things. Who knows? There's just no answer for this. I think Wendy put some very good things together here for us. Yes. Any other discussion before it? And I don't know if I missed anyone. Yes, Don, please.
This is real quick. There's a book being published, I think in April, by Angus Fletcher. He's professor of literature at Yale. And he was a former neurologist who switched over to literature because he decided that storytelling is a technology, and it's the technology that lets us discover ourselves, which is why I find this study group so valuable. And so that the book, it's not out yet, but I'm going to be one of the first in line to order it.
That'll be an interesting book. Yes, thank you, Don.
What's the title, Don?
It's a long title, and I can't remember, but his name is Angus Fletcher.
Angus Fletcher.
Okay. So, if one other thing, the brothers have gone out into the field, and they're going to tend the flocks. Joseph is remaining behind. Is he a homebody? Has he been? Is it expected by Jacob that, Joseph, we expect you to stay at home. You've been this way your entire life. And I'm going to ask another question. What is Jacob's motivation in telling him to go out there, see how your brothers are and how the flocks are faring, and bring me back word? We know that Jacob has done this before, that we had discussed this before, but what is Jacob's motivation here?
He used to go with them. Why did he stop?
Right, right. And so maybe he was a homebody by this time. Who knows? It doesn't say that explicitly in the Torah, but he's set for whatever reason. He's separated. He's been segregated from the chores that his brothers are expected to keep. Joanne.
How old is Joseph? Do we have any idea? I mean, is he 20 or is he maybe only, 12? I don't know how old.
He's 17 at the beginning of the chapter.
Okay.
And so we don't know if he's a little older yet, or but obviously it says one time when his brothers had gone to the pasture, to pasture the flocks. So maybe this could be months, it could be years. We do not know.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Rabbi Mary.
Well, I think that there is a connection between Yaakov, Jacob's life, and this event. If we recall, Jacob and Esau were very different. Esau was a hunter and he left the tent. He was going out to hunt. And Yaakov was Ish Hoalim, he stayed in tents. And there are a lot of Midrashim that talk about it. Some said that he studied Talmud. Some say that he was a mama boy, and that's why he knows how to bake. No, that is with his mother clothes. So maybe this is a kind of thinking about himself as a role model to Joseph. And he knows that he is the preferred one of his mother. So I don't know, maybe in the back of his mind, that's what shows being the chosen, the preferred, the better.
Okay. Let's go back a little bit. So Joseph and Jacob, we have had this discussion also about Jacob, and who else did we have this discussion? An ancestor of Jacob. Didn't we say something very similar when we spoke about Isaac being also the same type of characteristics? And so maybe that's what is being thought about here. I'm just tossing this out as another possibility that Jacob is mulling over in his mind. My goodness, this is a very interesting comparison that I'm making here. For one reason or another, what Joseph is doing is very similar to my dad. How many of us wind up thinking like our fathers or mothers thought and doing things that may not be the primary thing, but it may be a secondary interest?
Isaac is his grandfather.
Okay, you could also. So we have a whole sequence here, and I don't think Joseph is mulling this over yet. I think Joseph will mull some of this over later on in the story when we get to the discussions towards the end of the Joseph story. But I think that it's something to keep in mind as an additional thread that's been added into the scheme of things here. Any other discussion about this part of the Joseph/Jacob story? Yes, Don and Pastor Bruce.
Just coming quickly back to Jacob's reaction to the dream. He wasn't at all happy to hear that he and his wife might be bowing down to their son. And in a way, it's kind of foretelling, because he, not to read too far ahead on this, but he, the first thing that the brothers react to when they see him in the distance is, let's kill him. And so Jacob must have known that was a risk. So I don't know what would drive Jacob to doing that.
I can agree with what you say, because in the one of the commentaries by Rabbi Plout with regard to this is that one of his considerations is that Jacob was thinking that, it says, because Jacob believed that as a dream, it revealed the future. That's his commentary here. So I think that there's a lot of things that everybody has said that really show the importance of these just few verses, and you know because we can relate it to the past, the present, and future in the story. Yes, Rabbi Norman.
No, Pastor Bruce was first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pastor Bruce.
There's just so many people today, Marty. It's hard to keep track of us all.
It
is. kind of like the brothers, you know, and Jacob couldn't keep track of everybody very well. But anyway, I guess I've just been literally pondering, you know, thinking, taking all this I've kind of been really trying to figure out, did Jacob truly understand the tension? I don't know if he really did or didn't understand the tension between all these siblings. I'm not sure he would have sent him out there, like Don was just kind of saying.
Yeah.
Would he have sent him out there thinking, oh my gosh, these people hate him, or, you know, don't like him, or were envious of him, or were, you know, all these words that we used last week. I was thinking of the words we were using last week. And I was thinking too that if he did know that there was a problem, is he trying to solve the problem? As a parent, I mean, as a parent for myself, if there's a problem, I'm always trying to do things to solve the problem. I'm not trying to create more problems. I'm trying to solve the problem. So I can't imagine him doing anything at all that would be trying to create more problems, because as a parent, why would I want to do that? I wouldn't want to do that. So but sometimes our best intentions as parents flip-flop and go the exact opposite of what we think.
Right.
I mean, there's all these things that have been going on in my head all morning just listening to our conversation. So I was trying to think of myself as a parent, and I certainly wouldn't have put my child, I don't think, in any kind of forcing them to, anyway. I just think that Jacob maybe didn't understand the intensity of the problem that the brothers were having.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I don't think he would have sent him by himself there. And I also think that as parents, sometimes we think we're doing the right thing, and sometimes it does just kind of mess up, you know?
Yes. Now I'm going to take another viewpoint.
Sure.
Could Jacob have realized, hey, wait a minute, this guy Joseph is just sitting around the house and getting everything. He needs to learn what the brothers are doing to learn it himself and tend the flock.
Sure. That could be another thing. If he's old enough now to go out and help, go out and help.
Yeah.
Go get a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a parental thing.
Rabbi Norman.
Okay, so I'm going to propose a new translation, and what prompted this is, Marty, you and I both have the same English translation there at the start of 12.
Yes.
This one time when his brothers had gone to pasture. The one time isn't there in the Hebrew.
Ah.
Okay. All right. So that's a commentary or a midrash right in and of itself. But if you go back and change a little bit some of the grammar, starting with 11, okay, that the brothers were wrought up with him, the brothers were upset with him, were angry, jealous, however you want to understand it. And the father, recognizing this matter, okay, and we read that as if it's the end of a paragraph. But what if it's not the end of the paragraph?
Right.
The father recognizing the matter when the brothers went out to pasture because they were so upset. So they went away.
Mm.
All right. They left at that point. Doesn't say, one time, but that they left. And then if you go on into verse 13, Israel, that's Jacob, says to Joseph, okay, behold, or, look, hey, go get a job, go see what's going on.
Right.
Or it also could be understood as a question. Okay. Are your brothers pasturing? Is that where they went? I need you to go and find them.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Mhm.
I'm very concerned at this whole episode,
Very interesting.
which adds a different,
Mhm.
understanding of
Yeah.
of the story and of what Jacob is telling Joseph to do and why.
Very interesting.
And it's all prompted by in my thinking of that. It's all prompted of that by whoever added in the English one time, because the Hebrew doesn't imply that.
That is
There's some
interesting.
diacritical marks with the chanting that might be understood that way, but the Hebrew certainly does not imply one time that this was a unique situation necessarily.
Mm.
Okay, so I have to raise a question. How does Midrash get incorporated into Torah?
All the time.
Yeah, no, but I mean into the translation or the interpretation.
Well, you assume that the translating individual, and it's usually not an individual, it's usually a group,
Committee.
Academicians or grammarians or linguists, whatever, come together and they argue. The one tradition is the Septuagint, 70 years, but and they argue and whatever, and they come up to their understanding. And then what's the best, whether it's English, whether it's Greek, whether it's Latin, whether it's French, whatever, what's the best translation that that resonates with our understanding at the time of what the dialogue or what the specific experience might have been.
Okay, thank you. Now,
But that
I know,
also, excuse me, that also affirms what we, at least in the liberal streams of religion, talk of as that this is a human document.
right.
Okay.
Good point. Good point.
Very interesting.
Okay, I know Chris has had her hand up. I don't know if anyone else had her hand up, but certainly Chris.
Thank you. Rabbi, I kind of have a question here that if what you're saying, that is the now or the once is not in the picture, it appears that anyway, there was a time frame between the brothers leaving and Joseph following them, because they already are in different locations. And my question is, if that is so, then Jacob would have to had a couple of days at least to consider what am I going to do about this situation?
Right.
And more so than go ahead, hurry up, go get a job, do something, But it looks like it was a result of his time pounding on this happened yesterday situation. So maybe that's the reason why the Midrash apply there now. Could that be possible?
Of course, it's possible.
Yeah.
Of course, we every time we read this, and it is sacred. Every time we read the sacred material,
right?
We see it with different eyes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as this, the process of what we're doing right now is not a new, 21st, even 21st century process. This has been going on for thousands of years.
Right.
To be able, well, what about this and what about that?
Thank you.
That's
Thank
right.
you, Rabbi.
Yes, Rabbi Mary.
Well, so Rabbi Norman, so what about this? I'm asking, what about the question? He says, when he sends him, first of all, he uses in the modern Hebrew, na is a very nice way of saying please. But he says, so what about the shalom? What about, he says, and check if they are fine, if they are whole, if they are they and that.
Right.
So
Even if they are
by those
successful,
questions,
Yeah.
Right,
excuse
if
me?
they're successful.
right. It says in here, successful, yeah.
Well, you know, so what you're saying is that the word shalom will be as successful?
Possibly.
In my mind, it would be if they are okay. If they
No,
are,
I agree, but we're not,
Yeah,
we're not
yeah,
Jacob.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
Michael and Sue had, okay, Michael, you go first. Wendy, was your hand up too? Oh, okay. So Sue after Michael. Michael, you're muted again.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to go back, but this is something I just wanted to mention this before I would forget. And I do forget things quite quickly now, but I just wanted to ask you this, Marty. Reading the Torah, reading from the Torah and discussing it on Shabbat every Saturday morning, could that be considered reading the Torah with our hearts?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Yes.
Why not?
I think it's a combination personally. There's what you feel, and also things you think about as people mention other topics. So I
Right.
think it's a combination.
What Marty and Michael, and I think I mentioned that in the past, there is a phrase that says Torah lishma. We're studying Torah for the sake of the Torah. We are not paid for it. No one sent us to do it. It's not an obligation. So by concentrating in the study of the Torah, I think it's a beautiful phrase. You know, we don't think about anything else in here. We don't do it for any other purpose than studying the Torah.
Exactly.
Good point. Good, very well stated. Much better than I would have said. Sue, yes. Wait a minute. Is someone else after Michael? Before? Okay, Sue, you're on.
I just wanted to say, Pastor Bruce made a very interesting point about motivation, and I tend to agree with him about what was going through Jacob's mind. I think, in addition, he sees a reflection of himself in his son Joseph, and it is his favorite son. And I think he, among other things, is testing him because in his mind, this is going to be, the legal or his successor in leadership of the family in his mind. But this is early on, not what he ultimately decides. And I think he's wrestling within himself to see some signs that if he is going to be the next leader of the family, that he had better be able to get along with his brothers. And I think that's where the shalom comes in. I think he's testing Joseph to see if there's some level of respect on the part of the brothers to Joseph, knowing that Joseph has been somewhat favored and had a cushier life, perhaps, than the brothers. So I think that he's wrestling within himself and going through all these feelings. And to Michael's point about studying Torah on Saturdays, and is it a matter of the heart? I think to some degree, it is a matter of the heart, because when you study Torah, you are bringing your life's experience with you. There's a world of difference between a child of 12 studying Torah and an adult of 75, studying the Torah. You're bringing the life's experience with you and a little more understanding of human instinct and the power of the mind And the ultimate thing in this story, I think, in the story of Joseph and Jacob, is the power of reconciliation, which only comes through a long process, both mind and heart. The mind and heart have to be at one to bring about the reconciliation that is needed for a life that is balanced.
And when you are at one and balanced, you are at peace.
Amen. Good.
So, Sue has.
Shalom.
So we are.
Shalom is the peace.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
And so, yes, Rabbi.
I'm sorry, my son called on the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, and then Chris
And
again.
he's getting on an
Thank you.
airplane. To come here and help me take care of his mother.
Oh,
Okay.
that's really nice to
Which is,
hear.
I'm appreciative. I forget, it's a Hasidic rabbi rather than a medieval commentator. When Jacob tells Joseph to go check on the shalom of his brothers, it's whether or not they've been able to come to grips with their feelings, their emotions. That's their shalom. That's what he's supposed to, to check on. And can he somehow participate? Is it offer an apology? Is it explain things, or that's the shalom process that Jacob is sending Joseph for?
That's right.
It's a Hasidic thing rather than a medieval commentator.
So we're getting clues. Yes, Larry.
In that case, the thought about shalom being shalem means that they are not separated, that they are together, that they are complete.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, Chris.
It appears to me that, and I love Sue's explanation. I really agree with what you say. It's very clear in there. My only thought is going back to my childhood. I was the oldest one, so there was a lot of expectations on what I had to do with my siblings. And although Joseph was the favorite one, he was not the oldest one. I would think that the father would deal with the brothers before he sent poor Joseph into the gang, because Joseph seemed to be totally honest about his feelings and about his emotions, about the family, and he was just a carefree boy, while the other ones were already in cahoots to try to do something about Joseph, because they were the older ones and they were the ones that were angry with Joseph. So sending Joseph to fix something he probably didn't even know it was broken, it was kind of crazy. I think that it's like Pastor Bruce said, he's sending them to the wolves then, sending a child to come and deal with all these people that they were angry with him. Well, that was just a pig to the slaughter, my point of view.
Well, that's another important aspect that you bring up, because if he was that concerned,
right,
why wouldn't he go?
Exactly my point. I think
right.
It was Jacob's position to go and settle the issue with the other boys, reaffirm them the love that he had for them, and find the support of bringing the family together instead of sending this poor little pig to the slaughterhouse.
Okay, yes, Pastor Bruce.
I've been sitting here trying to think about what we've talked about everybody else except for how is Joseph really feeling about this?
There you go.
So we haven't talked about that part yet, I don't think. And so a few weeks back when we started this entire thing, we spent almost the entire time talking about our stories about oldest, youngest. If some of you are on there, you remember some of those stories. So because I was the youngest, I was thinking, okay, how would I be thinking about this? So I started trying to think like maybe Joseph was thinking as the youngest person. And I'm very quick to forgive and forget. That's
Oh.
one thing about me that I know. I'm very, okay, if somebody does something and I can forgive him, or forget about it, and I don't even hardly remember that it's there, and that's something I'm thankful for in my life, actually. Very thankful. So if he was like me, he probably thought, oh, they didn't think anything about these dreams. I mean, what difference does it make? That was yesterday. Who cares? I don't, I mean, that's kind of how I would have thought about that. I mean, when you think about it from Joseph's perspective, if he's like me, I'm trying to put myself in his shoes. I didn't have any fear about going out there. That was yesterday. It's all over. And who cares? It's a new day. Let's go on. Let's, you know, I mean, that's kind of how I am. So maybe that's because it doesn't say he went out with fear and trepidation. It doesn't say he was scared to death to go out to see his brothers.
He says hineni. He said hineni.
Yeah, I'm ready. Yes,
It
I'm
says
ready.
hineni. So I love that part. And I agree with you, Pastor, because I think that Joseph didn't have the slightest idea of resentment of the day before or what happened 2 days ago, because he was so ready to go. And if I would have told you my first dream and you guys said, oh, so that means we're going to have to bow before you, do you think I would have shared the second time?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I wouldn't tell you anything.
Yeah. I
agree with you. I think he was wholeheartedly a good boy.
And he could have easily given up on looking for him when we get to the next verse, had he wanted to.
Yes.
Right.
Good point. Yes, Ricky.
Sorry, I jump in.
One thing we learn in the program is that it doesn't matter what others think of us. It's what matters what we think of us. So missing what the brothers are thinking is in a way almost a very healthy thing to do. He's only, to pick up on what Pastor Bruce is saying, is what I think of the situation for me is more important than what others think of the situation for me.
Right.
When they can think of the situation for them, but they can't think of the situation for me.
Well, that's part of the exercise we're involved in now. That's right. We're trying to put ourselves in the minds of the different characters in the story.
From Joseph's point of view, if Joseph were in the program, he wouldn't care what the brothers were thinking. He would just, focus on himself.
Yes.
Or focus on his father's petition, which I think that's what he said, hineni, right?
Another good point.
Ready.
So Joanne, you had your hand up.
I'm pondering what I had my hand up for here a little bit.
Okay, well, we'll come back. We'll come back. Just raise your hand.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I'm thinking about the fact that Jacob, going to go back, I believe Jacob had the dream with the stairs going up and down, or is that before? Okay. And so he's used to dreams, Jacob is, and now Joseph is dreaming, and he realizes that Joseph must maybe face his dream by going to see his brothers and working it out. So I'm just thinking of the dreams of both.
Or
that puts them forward.
Joanne.
Yes, dear.
Whether it's that Joseph has to face his dreams or that Joseph has to fulfill the dream.
Right.
That's true. Thank you. Yeah.
I
was thinking about the dreams and both father and son.
If you want, getting back to how David started this entire session, you have to make your dream come true.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's important that you have to. What you're saying is very important. Let me put it that way. And in Judaism, we're people of doing. And
Sure.
maybe that that we have to do things. We have to try to find what needs to be repaired and to try in the world and try to come up with solutions of repairing them. But as we're going to find out in this story, and I've been mentioning this several times, sometimes what we think we do is good turns out not so good, and sometimes we think is bad turns out to be good. So we have to keep all this in mind as we go through this story. Yes, Sue.
I just had a thought because we're talking about dreams. And it is true in the case of Joseph that he has these prophecies, but we're also talking about leadership in this family. And in order to become a good leader, if your dream is purposeful enough, it becomes a mission. And that's important in this story too.
Yes.
Just thought I'd
Very
toss
good.
that out.
Very good. Well, so far Joseph has to find his mission. And we'll see what that
On the other hand, if we look at the dream and the next dream, the same thing, Joseph doesn't move. It's the others that bow towards him. It's not that, and some is, and he put the crown on his head, and he doesn't do anything. It's just passive. And the others are those that convert him into a leader.
Is it possible also that because Joseph is a dreamer, just like Jacob, and that he sees, it's been mentioned that he sees something, Jacob sees something in Joseph. If the prophecy from God is to be fulfilled, do I have to send Jacob out? With all my thinking about all of my life's experiences, is it Joseph that has to be the one to help fulfill God's dream?
That's nice. Very nice.
So is he starting to realize this? So I have to send him out. I don't know, but I think the discussions that we've had are very important because this is another blank space in this story, and we've had to fill this up with a lot of drash interpretations. And I think that it's helpful because as we get to the next series of statements, the next couple of verses, we're going to have another lengthy discussion. So if somebody wants to read begin reading with the last part of verse 14.
Can I pick up on dreaming just a bit?
Oh, sure, Ricky.
I mean, I'm sitting here trying to decide if I wanted to share this dream, a very personal dream for me. Many years ago, I was new in the program. I was definitely a screwed up person in my whole being. And I'll never forget this dream. And we talked about dreams being prophecies, or they're good, or they bad, or they whatever. This dream, it was along the shore of the ocean. Waves were coming in, but there was a little hollowed area formed by rocks. And there was a fish in there, and the fish was me. And I couldn't tell if the tide was coming in to raise the water level to save me, or if the tide was going out, in which case I'd be on dry land and die or whatever. And it was just, I don't even know when I realized I reconciled that dream. Obviously, the tide was coming in and saved me. The water level rose. But that one dream had both sides in it. It could have gone either way.
Sure.
And depending upon what actions I took, determined the outcome of that dream. So, dreams can be very powerful in many ways. I mean, that was a point that I remember saying I made a commitment to my wellness. I made a commitment to that tide coming in. So,
Interesting.
but that fish in that pool, I can still see it, just rocks and which way was the tide going.
You would have enjoyed meeting Art Bernard, who was a psychologist and in our congregation. And he was also an artist. And he also had dreams about fish, and he would paint pictures of that. And so I think that it's very interesting that you had a dream like that. So Michael, you had your hand up, and then Gail.
Based on what Ricky was saying, I just was pondering, if you will, my own dynamics about dreams. I've had, when I was younger, dreams that were reoccurring dreams, 2 or 3 of them, that I would dream all the time. But they, I'm not going to get into what they were, because they're rather odd, very strange, but I just thought I would mention that. Thank you. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, Gail.
I was just remembering, you're talking about Art Bernard. I remember him coming to our Torah study for this particular part of the Torah. And he talked about dreams and interpreting of things. Yeah, he made a special appearance, and it was very, very interesting.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, he was an interesting.
He was a very, very smart, a very wise fellow. Yes. Any other comments? Because now we're going to, if somebody would like to begin reading the latter portion of verse 14.
Yeah, I was reading before if you want me to continue. And he said to him, go out. Okay. So he sent him from the valley of Hebron. When he reached Shechem, a man came upon him wandering in the fields. The man asked him, what are you looking for? He answered, I'm looking for my brothers. Could you tell me where they are pasturing? The man said, they have gone from here, for I heard them say, let us go to Dothan. So Joseph followed his brothers and found them at Dothan.
Okay, thank you. Now, any comments? I'm just going to ask one question. Who's the man?
You're the man.
So, but that's only one of the topics we can discuss. But I think it would make for an interesting discussion if we could figure out a man. I usually let them go first. Okay. Yes. Chris, please.
Yeah. Well, the messengers are the Malek, so I believe that he could have been one messenger. He was readily willing to give the information about the brothers right away, so could have been a messenger.
Okay, that's a possibility. Yes, Ricky.
Yeah, I have a commentary here. This man was the angel Gabriel in the likeness of a man whom God sent to lead Joseph to his brothers to fulfill the prophecy to Abraham.
Okay.
That was Rambam. When Joseph could not find his brothers, he had a perfect excuse to return to Jacob and avoid what he knew would be an unpleasant meeting. Instead, he displayed great loyalty to Jacob by searching for them persistently. And that's Rashbam.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's excellent. Any others? Well, I found a rabbi. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just it's interesting to figure out or try to have what our operating assumption is. Who found whom?
That's a good way.
Yes.
Okay. Did the man find Joseph, or did Joseph find the man?
Oh, I love it.
Right. Or is there another outside force that allows them to come together. That's
Right.
right. Yes,
Right.
Pastor
But
Bruce.
certainly classical interpretation is that the man is an angel, whether it's Gabriel or, or it certainly is a messenger in human form.
Right.
Pastor Bruce.
Just like what you were saying is what exactly I was going to say here, is that we have this choice always to say, for events in our lives, like Joseph's meeting this stranger, it's either random coincidence. And again, a few weeks ago, I think I gave you my Godcidence word instead of coincidence word. Godcidence, because, or attribute it to God or random circumstances. And I have a tendency fully to believe that the hand of God was operating here, no matter who it was.
Right.
We don't know really who it was. There's no way to really know who it was, but I can fully believe that the hand of God was making these people come together in some way, shape, or form so that this whole thing could be fulfilled as we keep reading. That's what I was thinking anyway when you said that.
And so
was it Marty already used the word beshert?
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of different ways we can look at this. So I found something written by Rabbi Toba Spitzer, who tried to show several. It's a commentary that he wrote on the.
I'm going to suggest that Tova. I'm going to suggest Toba Spitzer is a she.
Is a she. Thank you.
Right. Toba is usually a feminine name.
I did not know. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And she says, and she lists several different commentaries through the ages. One is from Rashi, and a man found him. This was the angel Gabriel. This is where this comes from. As it is written, and the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in a vision, was sent forth in flight. And she cites, Rashi cites Daniel 9:21. Okay. Rabbi Ibn Ezra, and a man found him. Interpretation, according to the plain meaning, a passerby in the road. Those of you who study Zohar, passerbys in the road are very important individuals. From the Midrash, a man found him. Rabbi Yanai said, he was met by 3 angels, Malachim, and a man found him. The man asked him, and the man said, in the different following state, in each one of the passages, that each one is not by one man, it's by 3 or one angel, it's 3 angels. Nachmanides, and a man found him. Here he was roaming in the field. This is saying that he, Joseph, was straying from the road. Okay. Think of it as straying from the way, and did not know where to go, and entered a field, since he was looking for them in a place of pasture. The text mentions this at length in order to tell us that many events befell him that could have rightly caused him to turn back, but he endured it for the honor of his Father. It is also to inform us that the divine decree is true and human diligence is worthless, for the Blessed Holy One sent him a guide without his knowledge in order to bring him into his brother's hands. It is this that the rabbis in the Midrash, this is still Nachmanides speaking, it is this that the rabbis in the Midrash intended when they said that these men were angels or malachim. For these events were not without purpose, but rather to inform us that Many thoughts are in a person's heart, but it is God's counsel that is accomplished. And that's from Proverbs 19:21. Not the year 1921, Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21. Menachem Mendel of Kotsk, from his Iterei Torah. The man asked him, saying, "What do you seek?" The angel Malach taught Joseph that whenever he finds himself wandering on life's paths, when his soul is confused, he should remember to clarify for himself what he really wants and yearns for. Then he will be able to return to the path.
I think I lost the sound too.
And he will first make clear to himself when he does this, he will make it clear to himself that which he truly seeks. So he has to find where he's going, okay, or what he's up to. So Rabbi Toba Spitzer, she asks, there's disagreement, obvious disagreement among the commentators, but whether the man that encountered Joseph was just a person or some kind of divine messenger. So how would the story change in your mind depending on which of these opinions you follow? So it's food for thought when we have multiple interpretations, just like we've been doing in our studies all along, all the different ideas we come up with. And I'm sure that there are others. Rabbi Spitzer also says both Nachmanides and the Kotsker Rebbe seek some deeper meaning in Joseph's encounter with the man. For Nachmanides, the Malach is an instrument of God's design, making sure Joseph arrives where he is supposed to. For the Kotsker, the messenger brings a spiritual teaching about reminding oneself of our deepest yearnings. And she asks, have you ever had a random encounter that you later viewed as having some deeper meaning or purpose? So I thought it was a very interesting discussion just to talk about the man, Rabbi Norman.
Well, I'll probably speak on behalf of Rabbi Miri and Pastor Bruce. I think through the years, I can't count the number of sermonic interpretations that I've done with I'm seeking my brothers, whatever. I'm really seeking, who I am in light of my brothers, my family, my kin, my people. There's another, I thought it was Menachem Mendel, but maybe it's not. It might be Simcha Bunim, one of the other Hasidic rabbis that I quoted in one of those sermons. When you play around with the Hebrew a little bit in verse 16, where Joseph answers, and normally he said, I'm seeking my brothers. Can you tell me where they're pasturing or where they're shepherding? But you can change it around a little bit the way the Hasidim do, and it becomes that Jacob's answer is, with my brothers, we're all seeking Anochi, and Anochi for the Hasidim is my real self, my real identity, okay, who I really am in light of my family, my history, my experience, my future, my dreams, all the things that we've been talking about. So that's another one in addition to Rabbi Spitzer that you were referring to. I remembered that one also, that I'm really seeking with the help as my brothers have been doing, I'm seeking my Anochi. I'm seeking my own persona in this journey.
Fascinating. Very interesting. Any other? Yes, Pastor Bruce.
I'm just going to ask Rabbi Miri or Rabbi Norman. I'm struggling with one of the things about the three angels. Is the word man in 37:15 singular or plural?
Singular.
It is. That's what I
Singular.
thought.
Yeah.
So I was struggling with the
But it's
three.
the same thing. If you go back to the story of the three angels and messengers who come to Abraham and whatever, it goes back and forth between singular and plural.
Go back. Does this one ever go back and forth, or is it just?
No.
Oh, I didn't think so. I was.
But they take the fact that there are three separate responses.
Oh yeah, you can
to
start with
each,
plural
you know.
in Genesis and go theologically from there, and I kind of do, as you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, but okay, I just was thinking about this particular text. I just wasn't sure. I was getting confused.
This one's always in the singular.
Okay, thank you.
So any other? Yes, Suzanne.
I have to wait a minute.
I thought it was a shofar or something.
Yeah. Now she has some workmen there.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Suzanne, are you okay?
Yes. I kind of drifted off a little bit. What word were we talking about between singular and plural? Is it
Malachim. Is it?
No, ish. The
Oh,
Hebrew
ish.
word ish.
Okay.
Ish?
Man.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Don and Mary, it's a tie. So ladies first. I'm still chauvinist.
No. Donald first. I talk too much anyway. So Don first.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Excuse me, has somebody speaking in the background?
Could we mute?
Can we mute? I
I'm
don't
trying
know.
to figure out. I'm trying to figure out who it is.
That was,
I thought it was Don.
that was my granddaughter is on a legal exercise team, so it was in the background.
Oh, okay.
So I just shut it off. Where was I? Yeah, the Ish who overheard the brothers saying they were going to Dotan. That to me, that kind of just reinforces the predestination theme. That, you know, if Joseph had any intent about finding the field empty and turning back, that forced his hand. You know, now there's no way he was gonna have the rendezvous. The issues seem to turn up just just in time to keep the story moving to where it's supposed to go. That's
Good point. Good point. Also, yes. Mary first, then Joanne, then Chris.
I love what Rabbi Norman said about finding himself as a notion. And I think that we saw the same kind of thing when Abraham is being sent out. And we say, Lech Lecha, go to yourself. That's as an explanation. And in order to go to yourself, you have to go physically.
Very good. Very good. So it's Joe. Is it? I think Joanne was first, then Chris. Oh, was it the other way around?
No, Chris said no.
Oh, okay. Then Joanne.
Okay.
Joanne?
What I want to say is Donald is too far away from his sound system. And at least for me, he says it and then it comes back to you. There's a reflection, I want to call it, but it's, it's an echo coming out.
Okay, we'll mention that to Don to get closer to his
Yeah,
screen. Okay,
I like what he says and I'm having a hard time hearing it.
got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments at this point?
Chris.
Okay, Chris. Chris, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you. I just heard Don say something about premonition or something like that. That we are going to end up where God wants us to go. Is that what it will explain to?
It's
Predestination.
predestination.
Okay, thank you, thank you. My tongue got tangled in there.
That's okay.
And I think that I just thought immediately about and I know I'm jumping from Genesis to Exodus, but I'm thinking about the exodus of the people in Egypt, that they were supposed to arrive in Canaan in 11 days, according to what I read somewhere, I don't know where. And it took him 40 years. I think that's obviously, I believe in my heart that God did ordain for all of us to be on the right track, but the distance or the time that we take to get there, that's up to us, basically. So I like to think that in this case, it's the same thing with Joseph. God has the good intentions for all of us. And what do we do with the direction that we go into? It is really up to us. Either we take the shortcuts or we be stubborn and try to go a different way. I don't know, maybe it's not the proper comment right now because we're not in Exodus, but I just heard that word and it kind of thought like, wait, no, I don't know that I can consider that predestination. I think, well, no, I do consider that a predestination, better yet. Thank you.
Okay. So is it that is it important for us to be shown the correct way or the correct path or the correct road? Or is it up to us, or do we have to find others to keep us on the path? Or is it a combination of both?
I was gonna say all of the above.
I think all of the above too.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's all of the above.
So this concept is at many levels, and each one of these stories maybe it can be looked at as parables to help us stay on the right path.
The right track.
The right track. Yes. Yes, Pastor Bruce.
I look at the history that we see, and then we all have our own history. That's the thing that I think that, and so everyone's life is influenced by, you can say this is a serendipitous event. Oh, they just happened to meet. If you want to, that's fine. It could be entirely random, but it's like faith. It's kind of like our faith itself. Our faith, do we see God or not see God? And is that a choice that we have? We see God, we have faith in God. That's a choice that we make. And that's, much of our life is shaped by the choices that we make. And sometimes though, I was thinking about this, we don't always choose what happens to us, but we do choose how to react to what happens to us.
Yes.
That's Viktor Frankl.
In general. And yeah, I think that You know, I think even I was looking at some commentaries and they quoted Abraham Lincoln and saying, we are as happy as we make up our mind to be. Abraham Lincoln.
Good way of looking at it. Yes.
And I just thought, you know, here's all these things happening here, and there's about ready to be a big thing that's happening that we haven't even talked about yet. So whether it's fortuitous or serendipitous or entirely random, or like what I like to think about as being Godsidence, that God arranged these things to happen. You know, it's that way with faith. It's a choice that we have to believe that. I mean, I'm sure Joseph, if he was really thinking about leaving, I think what Don said earlier, if he was thinking about leaving because he couldn't see them and thought, well, maybe this is my path to not see them, even though Dad told me to go do this. I'm just trying to think of times in my own life where there's been choices where it's been kind of like, well, do I really want to do this? Do I really not want to do this? And how do you end up choosing? And does somebody come along and help you? And the answer is, yeah, if God puts somebody in your path to help you, or if God puts us in a path to help someone else. That happens to me a lot right now, it seems. Seems like somehow I'm in somebody's path and I'm trying to help them with something. And that's what God's doing. And so I don't want to argue with God. I want to believe that God is putting me in somebody's path to help them do what they need to do. And so I guess, I don't know if I'm making sense or not making sense.
You are.
Okay, that's good. I just think that we have to believe that there's a choice, and somebody or something will affect us, and we will affect someone else based on these things of which we are all about. Some people would call it the human pool cue ball that, you know, I mean, I've heard that analogy. I don't know if I really like it, but you know, that all of these little things are bouncing into each other so that the world will do what it's supposed to do. But it's kind of like that, I think. And I just hope that at the end of life, when you look back on it like Joseph, and we haven't, I think somebody already quoted it last week, you know, that it's kind of like, oh, okay, we just did Purim for such a time as this, you know, okay, let's use that word from since we just had Purim. For such a time as this, we are all here, and we are all doing something to hopefully help humanity to be a better way, and to recognize that there is a creator that, you know, has created us, and you can have faith in that person, in the God who created us. So anyway, I probably talked too much. This is probably my last comment for today.
It's okay. Very good points. Michael, Ruthann, and Ricky. Okay, so Michael, you're first, and then Ruthann, and David after that. That's right. Or Wendy. Okay. So let's go ahead, Michael.
It seems to me that we have a responsibility as human beings to pass on high values, or at least values that could help other people. And that's a great part of why I believe we were placed here. God chose us, each individual, to be born and to be here. And you could see this in reading the Torah. You can see it in reading God's word. It's really not a mystery that we don't rely on others. We rely on ourselves to do the best we can. And if people come along to help us, I think that's great. But we should not rely on that. We should rely on helping the world, each of us, in the best way that we can.
Excellent. Ruthann.
Okay, I was just going to say that we don't look at how much we're affected by what's going on in other people's lives. I mean, I know I look at my professional life, and the course that my professional life took was very much determined because somebody else was affected with something or another, that I had to step in, or I was forced to step in, or my boss chose that I was going to be the one to step in to take their place. And so my path went in a totally different direction than I thought it would because of others. And I think a lot of that here is the same thing, the brothers have different ideas and different needs and wants and desires, whatever. And that's going to take Joseph's life off in a totally different way than maybe it would have had they felt differently. It might not necessarily be just Joseph and Jacob. It's how the brothers felt.
Sure, sure. David and then Ricky, or
Actually, it's me again.
oh, it's Wendy.
I have a prime example of how praying to God has put all the right people in my path. A few years ago, I have two sisters, and we were meeting in Germany for a sister's trip. They came from New York, so they traveled together, and I came from here, and I thought, oh, it's easier just for me to meet them. And the whole time I was one basket case of anxiety because I had never traveled internationally by myself before. And on my first flight, I sat next to a gentleman who told me all about the trains I find in Germany when I finally got there, which didn't help too much. But on my second flight, I sat next to this little tiny woman. I think she was Egyptian, and she couldn't speak much English. She was freezing, so I was the one at that point helping her. I gave her my blanket. I got her the tea that she was afraid to ask for, all that stuff. And then I got on my third flight knowing I was going to end up where I didn't know what to do or where the metros were getting into Germany. And I sat next to two whacked out girls who were going in for Oktoberfest. And between the three of us, we struck up a friendship, and we shared a cab, and we all got to our place once I got into Germany. Then on my way home, because we wound up in Venice, when I got to the airport and I finally found my American Airlines desk, I couldn't find how to get to my next plane because it was a convoluted route. And I'm thinking, okay, Lord, where are the people you're supposed to help me with? And then all of a sudden I heard two people talking in American accented English, and we all went together and found the plane. Then when I got into Chicago, I was the one then helping a young man coming in from Spain or something who didn't know what to do and how to get to his next gate, and I guided him along. So God definitely helped me out on that trip. It works. Prayer is great.
Yes, it does. It does. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, Ricky.
First, I just want to say that, I have like these little slogans I use for myself, but coincidence is God's way of working anonymously.
That's interesting.
Very interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So, I definitely believe in coincidence. I believe in miracles. But one of the things, I hate to say this, in the program, so often the topic is gratitude. And there's sometimes I just want to gratitude, barf. But one of the very first meetings of that type I went to, I just blurted out, I'm grateful my higher power's baseball bat is bigger than my head, because I was so busy doing it my way. I'm so busy doing it, and I don't believe that there's a God, a higher power or anything. This is, almost 40 years ago. And so, but my higher power, my God, believed in me and kept pounding and pounding and pounding until I finally got the message. But I didn't get the message from the pounding. I realized I sort of got the message from a book, The Road Less Traveled, M. Scott Peck. And I understood there was just a sentence in the whole book, but I understood the etiology of my illness. but I couldn't understand the etiology of my wellness. What made me turn? What was that little spark, that, that fish, whatever. And the etiology of my wellness, according to M. Scott Peck, was, and I think this is strictly a Christian word, the grace of God. And once I owned that, it's to know it and then to own it, that if I accept the grace given me, the grace of God given me, then I can change my whole path. But my higher power, as I called them then, or the force, had to keep hitting me over the head and over the head and over the head, and didn't give up on me, and kept sending me books, people, whatever. I sent you a truck, I sent you the rowboat, I sent you the helicopter. How come you died in the flood? That joke. So I don't know where that fits into, but then I also kind of believe in the title of the book, if you meet the Buddha on the side of the road, kill him, because we do have all the answers inside. But sometimes we need help finding that insideness to put us on the right path. So it's all of the above when you ask that question.
Agree. Rabbi Norman.
I want to go back. Well, first of all, Ricky, grace is indeed a Jewish concept.
Okay.
We can talk about it separately, but okay, all right. Back to the question with which I began this morning, which was what's Jacob's motivation in sending Joseph out of it? How does he understand what's going on? So 2 points. Or one, I'll answer my own question, at least as the traditionalists understanding. Jacob, we have to remember, Jacob is an exploitative character, right? Jacob is a heel. Jacob is, to begin with, is out for himself. So sending Joseph out to check on the brothers is nothing new. The question is, what after it says that Jacob or the father remembered what was going on, or he observed what was going on, and he took it to heart, to use Michael's phrase, for example. And so we might start to think that Jacob was just blowing this all off and says, okay, let's go. We had this experience with the dreams, and whatever, but now let's go back to our usual stuff. I'm sending Joseph out to spy on the brothers. Are they really doing what they said that there's what I told them to do? Are they really doing when they go out? Wait a minute, they're supposed to go to Shechem, but the brothers knew that Joseph was going to come looking for them, so they went somewhere else, to get him in trouble so that he wouldn't be able to find them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you might think that was what was happening. But the rabbis say, no, that's if the name of the father in this particular story had been Jacob. But Taka, Davka, as we say, it calls him Israel here.
Yes.
Okay. Jacob/Israel has learned some lessons, has some insights into himself, like what all of you have been saying this morning. He understands himself as a father, as a leader of the clan, and looking at Joseph as the one who will be continuing the legacy. And so he has a different message and a different imperative in sending Joseph out to look for his brothers. It's not spying upon them. It's trying to find shalom with them, for the sake of the clan and for the sake of the people Israel.
Right. Good. Very, very well stated. Okay, Sue wanted to say something, not because she's my wife, but I am going to give her the last word.
The only thing, there's a lot about the story of Joseph that I find very hard to grapple with. But in particular, when he goes on the path and meets the man, if the intent were that for us to interpret that as an angel or a messenger of God, why not say angel or messenger of God? Why specifically use the word man? So that got me thinking, and I'm not saying I'm on any right track here, but it occurred to me, and I think actually someone else said this before when we were having a conversation, that maybe Joseph is actually confronting himself, that he has a moment of shining light and absorption of God or something eternal in him that says, continue and fulfill
Very
this
good.
mission. You
Very
have
good.
this obligation and you don't want to sully the name of your father. So I'm throwing that out because it seems to me if the intention were that he, in the story, that he really was inspired by a messenger or an angel, wouldn't it have stated that rather than the word man? That's all I'm asking.
Good point. I think somebody wants Pastor Bruce.
And Sue, that is so interesting because I just realized the question is what, and the answer is who.
Well stated.
Interesting.
Well stated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a Jewish tradition, by the way. Answering a question with a question. Joanne, yes, go ahead.
Oh, once upon a time, I guess that's why the dreams are kind of really coming through to me today. I had in my studies, I had a course to receive the 3 credits for, and it was on dreams. And we had to record, and part of the course, we had to record the dreams. And you wake up, if you were dreaming, you recorded it. One of my dreams was being in a house that I'd never been in before, but it was a very old house. And I had to keep going upstairs, and finally I got to the top, and it seemed like my son was there, but there also was this spirit going boom, boom, all over this room, this bright light kind of thing. So being a good student, I said, this is what this means, wrote it up, etc. A number of years later, I was at a party and I was calling this thing that was going spirit. And somebody at the party, I went to the bar and they said, would you like a spirit? It was at that moment I realized what my dream was about, that had happened a number of years before. My son was 16, just received his driver's license, was busy going out with friends, and he was a rather rambunctious child. And I was very scared of him drinking at 16 at these parties. And that was the spirit in that room, was my fear. So I'm sitting here today thinking about that fear long ago, and it truly was, I needed to have that. So thank you for letting me tell you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Yes, thank you for sharing. Any other comments or anything? Well, then I'm going to say tune in next time. Okay. What will happen to Joseph? Will he seek a solution to his dreams? Will they come true? Will some other peril befall him? So tune in next time for the answer to these questions.
Rabbi Norman, best wishes to Lynn. We hope
Thank
that
you.
Lynn
Yes.
improve.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll tell her.
Yes. Okay. And just one thing, Rabbi, just let me know what you want to do next Friday so I can set it up.
I think we'll do services.
Oh, well, just serve, but you know what I
okay.
mean. Which format?
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
No worries.
Okay.
No worries.
Yes, Gail.
Yeah, I just want to tell Don the name of that book he was referring to by Angus Fletcher is Wonder Works.
That's it.
And I very sneakily during the class looked it up on Amazon and ordered it.
Thank you for
And
the
she will read
information.
it by next week.
Sue also wants to mention something about, in response to what Pastor Bruce mentioned, a resource that picks up on what Pastor Bruce was talking about was.
Oh, Viktor Frankl.
Man's Search for Meaning.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, that's straight out of his book.
So all of these things come into play. This is a very interesting passage. And so Joseph's quest probably in one way or another is our own quest. Yes, Mary, were you going to say?
I wanted to thank you for leading the Torah study, and I need to leave. I have another Zoom in an hour. Thank you.
Zoom on. Take care.
Have a good week, everybody.